Well, hello and welcome back to our math book. This is Mrs. Hauk, and I hope you guys enjoyed a day off of working in our book. We are going to move on to lesson 11, but I am going to change a lot of things up in this book, so I want to make sure that you are paying attention. We are not going to do fraction multiplication, but we are going to do some multiplication with decimals. Okay, so we are going to do some multiplication with decimals. When we multiply things, we know that that is called the product. Okay, so we're going to actually learn, and we're going to, or for some of you, review how to multiply by decimals. The first problem you will notice is that we are going to calculate the product. Well, product means the answer when we multiply, just like we learned that quotient is the answer when we divide. We're actually going to change this number because there's not a lot of room for us to do a big multiplication problem like that. So what I would like for you to do is I would like for you to go ahead and cross this out, and we're going to make this problem real simple. We're going to do 4 6/10 times 2 8/10. Okay, now when we multiply, because it gets a little bit longer, I like to turn my book sideways because I have more room to go this way. Okay, so I'm actually going to turn my book like this so that I have room to write the problem 4 6/10 times 2 8/10. Now I can work this direction. Okay, that's why I have my book sideways. So the first thing we do when we multiply, obviously, is we start here with the 8, and we multiply 8 times 6. It's 48, carry my 4. 8 times 4 is 32. 32 plus 4 would be 36. Okay, now we're ready to move on to the next number. We've multiplied everything by the 8, so we're going to move over to the 2. So I'm going to go ahead and cross this out so it makes me remember. Since I'm moving over to the 2 spot, I have to put a placeholder right here. So now that I can multiply by 2. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9. All my numbers have lined up nice and neatly. So now I'm going to add straight down. 8 plus 0, 6 plus 2, and then I have 9 plus 3. Okay, I have here 1288. Well, now I have to go back to my problem to look at where to put my decimal. Okay, we don't line decimals up like we do when we add and subtract, but now we're going to look and count the decimal spots. What I mean by that is the first number we had here was 4.6. Here's the decimal. How many spots are after the decimal? There's 1. We had 2.8. How many numbers are after the decimal? That's 1. That makes for a total of 2 decimal spots. So that means down here in my answer, I'm going to start at the back, and I'm going to go 2 decimal spots, and my answer will be 12.88. Okay, so let's continue a little bit more practice. Let's go ahead and turn our book back this direction. All right, so let's look at this problem here. It says Xavier earns $11.50 per hour working at the nearby grocery store. Last week, Xavier worked for 13 and a half hours. How much money did Xavier earn last week? Remember to round to the nearest penny. Well, we're going to go ahead and change this big number here, and we're going to say that he only worked 2.5 hours instead. Okay, so we don't have to have such long multiplication problems. So we're going to take $11.50, and we have to find the product or multiply it times 2.5 hours to see how much money he's going to make. Okay, so once again, I'd like to turn my book sideways so that I have enough room to write. And I like to write the longer number on top because when we multiply, we can multiply in any order because we'll get the same answer. So I have $11.50 on top, and I'm going to do 2.5 hours on the bottom. Now you will notice I did not line my decimals straight up and down like I do when I add and subtract. We don't have to do that when we multiply. Okay, we just multiply, we line the numbers up. We start here with the 5, remember? And we do 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 1 is 5. Plus 2 more is 7. And 5 times 1 is 5. Okay, so I'm done multiplying by the 5. I need to move over to the 2, but I have to remember to put my placeholder because I'm moving over a spot. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 5 is 10, so I need to carry this to 10. 2 times 1 is 2. Plus 1 is 3, and then 2 times 1 is 2 right here. So now I'm ready to add everything up. All right, right, well, I've got a large number there, and I know that that can't be the amount of money that Xavier makes. So now I need to go back and look at my decimal spots. Well, here's my decimal on the first number, and there were 2 decimal spots. And here's my decimal here, and there was 1 afterwards, so that makes for a total of 1, 2, 3. So I start at the end of the number and go 1, 2, 3. Round it to the nearest penny. Well, when we look at money, we usually give cents in 2 digits. So I would say that my answer is $28.75. So I'll turn my book here and write $28.75. That's how much money he made in 2.5 hours. All right, so down here in this box, I would like for you to solve the problem 7 3/10 times 0 8/10. All right, so go ahead and pause the video if you feel comfortable in doing this on your own. If you don't, go ahead and keep listening. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put 7 3/10, 0 8. I'm going to multiply 8 times 3, 24. 8 times 7 is 56, plus 2 more is 58. I need to add my decimal, however. If you notice, here's the decimal. There's 1 spot there. Here's another decimal. There's 1 spot there. That makes for a total of 2 decimal spots. So I start here at the end, and I go up here to 2 decimal spots. 5 8400ths. All right, let's go ahead and flip over to the other side. We are not going to do all the problems on the next page, but we are going to do a few. Okay, so I've already flipped over and I kind of have changed the number that you can see for number 1. I crossed it out and then I went ahead and rewrote the problem here so that you can see. We're going to multiply 4 5600ths times 4 8/10. Now I can tell you already, before I even solve my problem, which is kind of nice to know, I already know there's 1, 2, 3 decimal spots. So I know that my answer needs to have 3 numbers after it. Okay, so when we're ready, let's go ahead. I always like to turn mine this way because I have more room. I'm going to write my new problem. Remember, I don't have to line the decimals up because I'm not adding or subtracting. I'm going to multiply by the 8 first. 8 times 6, 48. Remember, if you want to pause the video and work ahead, you can, and then check it. 8 times 5 is 40, plus 4 is 44. 8 times 4 is 32. 32 plus 4, 36. Okay, so I've multiplied by my 8. Make sure I don't get confused here since I use pen. Now, remember, I'm moving over to the 4, and because I'm moving over, I have to remember to put my place value. 4 times 6 is 24. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 plus 2 would be 22. And then 4 times 4 is 16. 16 plus 2 would be 18. I'm ready to add. 8 plus 0, 4 plus 4, 6 plus 2, 8 plus 3 would be 11, carry the 1. So there's my numbers. But if you remember, I know I need 1, 2, 3 decimal spots. So I'm going to put my decimal right here and circle my final answer. All right, so we're going to go back this direction, and to kind of save time from doing these humongously long multiplication problems, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and move down to problem number 4 for me. So if you guys could go down to problem number 4. Number 4 talks about the principal of East High School wants to buy a new cover for the sand pit used in the long jump competition. He measured the sand pit and found the length is 29 and 2/10 feet, and the width is 9 8/10 feet. What will the area of the new cover? Well, we remember if we have a rectangle like this, and if we would label it, we know that in order to find the area of a rectangle, we take the length times width, base times height. So we have to multiply these 2 numbers together. I think I might have enough room to keep my book this way. So let's go ahead and multiply these 2 numbers. First thing we're going to do is write them down. Just happens to work where my decimals do line up this time. Not that we need to. So we remember we start with the 8 and we're going to multiply. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 9 is 72 plus 1, 73. 8 times 2 is 16. 16 plus 7 is 23. So we'll put that. Now we're done multiplying by the 8. We're moving over to the 9. Let's put our placeholder. 9 times 2, 18. 9 times 9 is 81. Plus 1 would make this 82. 9 times 2 is 18. And then we have to take 18 and we have to add 8. And that is 26. All right, so now we get to add this up. 6. 8 plus 3 is 11. Carry the 1. 3 plus 1 is 4. 6 here. 6 and 2 is 8. Now, I need for you to tell me where the decimal goes on this problem. Where is my decimal going to go? Well, if I look at my problem, I have a decimal here, 1 spot, a decimal here, there's another one, so that makes for a total of 2. So here is my answer, 286 and 16 hundredths. Since I'm doing something in feet and we found area, we would label this one feet squared. All right, so we're going to flip our book over and I'm going to ask us to do one more problem. These are part of the problem set. I'm actually going to ask you to go ahead and look at problem number 4. It says Kendra just bought a new house and needs to buy new sod for her backyard. If the dimensions of her yard are 24 and 6/10 feet by 14 and 8/10 feet, what is the area of her yard? Well, here's another area problem. So we need to multiply the base times the height. We have these two numbers. So we're going to write 24 and 6/10 times 14 and 8/10, and we're going to multiply that to see what we get. So if you want to pause your video, you sure can. A good time to practice. All right, so for the first row, I have these numbers. Okay, when I multiply by the 8, I'm moving over to the 4, so I'm going to put a placeholder. Don't forget. Now we're going to multiply everything times 4. Okay, my next row of numbers looks like this. I'm done multiplying by the 4. I'm going to multiply by 1, but notice this time we have to move over 2 places, so put 2 placeholders, 1 times 6, 1 times 4, and 1 times 2. Now we get to add up 3 rows of numbers. 8, 10, carry the 1. Okay, 24, 10, 14, 16. All right, so I have the numbers 36408. Now I need to determine where my decimal is going to go. Well, 1 spot here, 1 spot here. That makes for a total of 2 spots. 2 spots. My answer goes right there. I found an area problem, so don't forget feet squared. Okay, once you have finished filling in these problems, you can go ahead and fill in the assignment that has been given, and I hope you guys all have a great weekend.